Welcome to the debate, where we examine substantive issues emerging from critical material. Today, we are wrestling with one of the most compelling and, I think, controversial plants a gardener can choose: bamboo. It's a plant widely revered for its stunning beauty, its utility, and its just astonishing speed of growth, but it definitely comes with a terrifying reputation for becoming an invasive menace.
And that reputation is, let's be honest, pretty well earned. Bamboo possesses a kind of biological ambition that, few other grasses can really match. And its aggressive root systems are the source of endless frustration, expense, and often, neighborly disputes.
So the central question we face today is not whether bamboo is aggressive, because, well, it is, but whether that aggression is manageable. Given the vigor of the spreading varieties, is planting bamboo actually a responsible choice for the average gardener? Or does the requirement for pretty intensive management render the long-term risk just too great? My take is that with proper species selection and proven containment methods, bamboo is absolutely a manageable and highly desirable addition to any garden. Proper preparation and foresight ensure it is a feature, not a failing.
And I maintain that the inherent tenacity of its spreading varieties presents a risk profile that is simply too high for most residential gardeners to really sustain over decades. For most people, frankly, the reward does not justify the commitment required to keep this plant in check.
Okay, so to start, we really have to move past the generalized fear. Bamboo's reputation for being dangerous is often based on, misunderstanding the fundamental physiology. We absolutely must distinguish between the two basic types: running bamboo and clumping bamboo.
Right. That foundational knowledge is completely non-negotiable for anyone even thinking about planting it.
Exactly. Running bamboo utilizes what botanists call leptomorph rhizomes. You can think of them as these aggressive lateral explorers, basically sending underground torpedoes far afield to colonize new territory. Clumping bamboo, on the other hand, uses patchomorph rhizomes. These are more like tightly packed bunches of bananas, maybe? They only expand slightly outward year over year.
And that is the crux of the choice, isn't it? Clumping varieties, such as those in the Fargesia genus, they're often easily manageable. They might spread, 10 to 20 feet in diameter over a lifetime. And that's generally fine for a garden boundary. But the running varieties, like the very popular Philostachys, those are the ones that follow that old adage. The first year they sleep, the second year they creep, and the third year they leap.
Right, but they are simply building their foundation during that time. Concentrating energy on a really robust subterranean network before sending up the tall canes or combs. If you are prepared for that growth pattern, running bamboo offers some unparalleled advantages, like incredible vigor and often superior cold hardiness. I see why you advocate for avoidance, I do. But let me give you a different perspective, perhaps. The solution is informed foresight, not simply blanket avoidance of what can be a truly beautiful plant.
See, I come at it from a different way entirely. That foundational network you mentioned, that's precisely what causes the problems. These aggressive rhizomes are just so tenacious. They don't respect property lines. They can sneak under driveways. They can break through weak spots in concrete paths. And they aggressively seek out water sources, often making a beeline for neighbors' gardens, or even worse, their plumbing. Without an effective, truly durable containment strategy implemented before you even put the plant in the ground, a vigorous runner easily turns into an invasive menace that is notoriously difficult and costly to correct.
Okay, but this brings us to what I believe is the real, maybe the ethical point of the discussion: the choice itself. You suggest that relying solely on clumping bamboo is limiting, especially since many truly tropical clumpers just can't survive freezing temperatures. And this, you argue, often forces gardeners in cooler, temperate zones into choosing the high-risk, indefinitely spreading runners, which are often the only cold-hardy option available to them.
That's exactly the limitation. Temperate, cold-hardy bamboo is frequently, almost completely, synonymous with the running type. If I live in a region that sees sustained freezing, my options for genuinely low-risk clumping bamboo are severely restricted. unless, of course, I want to baby some expensive potted specimen indoors half the year. So realistically, I often have to choose between no bamboo or high-risk bamboo.
But see, that's where the botanical facts really challenge the market reality, I think. I challenge the necessity of choosing high-risk runners in cooler climates. We have excellent cold-hardy clumpers available. The Fargesia genus, for instance, hailing from the Himalayas, can survive temperatures down to minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit. That covers a huge chunk of the US and Europe. Or consider Chuskia from South America, which tolerates this massive range, from basically 0 up to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. The diversity is actually tremendous. Responsible gardeners do not need to choose high-risk runners. The safe variety is absolutely out there.
That's a compelling argument. Based on, botanical availability, I'll grant you that. But have you considered the sort of Faustian bargain that bamboo often offers the average consumer? Many running bamboos, especially the ubiquitous Philistoxis aurea golden bamboo, they are inexpensive, they establish really fast, and they're incredibly plentiful precisely because they are so easy to propagate from those very same long-wandering rhizomes.
So you're saying the economic incentive drives bad behavior, poor choices.
Precisely. The price point is attractive, right? And the plant delivers rapid gratification. You get a privacy screen in just a year or two. So amateur gardeners, maybe less informed ones, choose these runners without really understanding the extreme containment needed. A Fargesia, on the other hand, can be harder to find and significantly more expensive at the nursery because, it's slower to propagate. This ease of proliferation for the runners is exactly why they are established globally as pests and are the source of most containment failures. The market, in effect, actively pushes the high-risk choice onto unprepared buyers.
I agree that market availability is certainly a challenge, but that only reinforces my argument, doesn't it? The problem is fundamentally one of preparedness and education, not the plant's inherent unsuitability. If you choose running bamboo for its specific advantages, maybe superior tolerance to your specific soil type or its sheer vigor, the solution is proactive, guaranteed containment. This really shifts the focus to the effectiveness of the barriers themselves.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that any barrier against this plant is truly guaranteed. I'd like to understand what level of commitment you are actually asking the average homeowner to make to achieve this so-called peace of mind.
But we are not talking about flimsy plastic sheeting here. We are talking about professional-grade containment solutions. Experts recommend a root shield, a rhizome barrier, made of heavy-duty polyethylene, like the kind used for, industrial foundations or pond liners. To be effective, this shield must be sunk incredibly deep. We're talking 30 inches or even more in some soils, creating a physical wall the exploratory rhizomes simply cannot breach. This kind of material commitment, while initially costly, yes, is absolutely money well spent on your peace of mind, and crucially on maintaining good neighbor relations.
Okay, but let's discuss the practicality and the sheer labor involved. Installing a root shield properly requires extensive, frankly backbreaking grunt work right at the beginning, digging a narrow trench, maybe 3 feet deep, around the entire perimeter you want to contain. That is not a trivial task for most people. And importantly, you can't just bury it flush with the ground, can you? It has to stick up several inches above the soil level.
Right. Why is that necessary again?
Because the rhizomes are often quite shallow. They frequently run just a few inches below the surface. If they encounter resistance, like a buried barrier, they are perfectly capable of just growing upwards and hopping right over a low edge, especially if you have a deep layer of mulch or compost built up against it. So that means this is absolutely not a set-it-and-forget-it solution. It requires diligent inspection and maintenance of those edges, year after year after year. That ongoing commitment, that vigilance, it's a heavy burden for many.
Okay, I concede that the initial installation is intense, absolutely, but ongoing management can be straightforward. Instead of a full buried barrier, some gardeners successfully use a containment trench. This is a simpler moat, you could say, perhaps 1 foot deep and 1 foot wide, just dug around the grove.
A moat? Like with water?
No, not usually water. Just an open trench, a maintenance moat. This allows the rhizomes, those running explorers, to actually grow into the trench where they become visible. Inspecting that trench, maybe a couple of times a year during the growing season, and simply pruning off the runners with a sharp spade before they breach the other side is a relatively simple and, importantly, non-toxic way to keep them contained. This makes management far easier, I think, than fighting a massive established root system after the fact. It requires consistent checking, yes, but it's manageable maintenance for many.
But the conversation has to address the really high stakes of failure here. If the containment system, whether it's a barrier or a moat, fails, perhaps due to insulation error or maybe just simple neglect over several years, the abatement process, getting rid of it, is brutal and potentially financially ruinous.
And this just reinforces the need for prevention from the outset.
Exactly. Just cutting the canes and attempting eradication with a spade is incredibly labor-intensive, often requiring digging out the entire planted area, sometimes feet deep. Desperate homeowners, understandably looking for shortcuts, sometimes resort to drastic and frankly environmentally questionable chemical attempts, using things like gasoline, bleach, salt, or concentrated herbicides like glyphosate.
Which are, of course, highly discouraged and often illegal for that kind of off-label use.
Right, and often ineffective against this plant's sheer biological imperative. These chemicals might kill the visible culms, the canes you see above ground. But the tenacious underground rhizome network often just survives and recovers later. If you truly want the bamboo gone for good, you have to physically excavate that entire indestructible root network. We are talking about needing specialized hydraulic tools, heavy machinery, maybe even a backhoe for severe decade-old groves that have, spread under foundations or pathways. The cost of failure is astronomical.
I'm not convinced by that line of reasoning as an argument against planting it responsibly, because the existence of extreme removal measures only reinforces the central argument for proactive responsibility. The very fact that you might need a bulldozer to fix a 10-year mistake means that you must honor the commitment to durable containment from day one. If you choose a high-vigor species, you simply assume the obligation of proactive, ongoing management. It is fundamentally about matching the gardener's dedication to the plant's innate will to thrive.
An obligation that, historically and anecdotally, many gardeners ultimately fail to meet because the annual inspection and maintenance just kind of slip away over time. Life gets busy. The inherent ease with which this plant spreads means the potential for conflict, property damage claims, formal complaints, even lawsuits from angry neighbors is almost built into the decision to plant a runner without absolutely ironclad guarantees and follow-through.
And that failure, I would argue, is a commentary on preparedness and education, not on the plant's fundamental unsuitability. With proper understanding and management, bamboo can still make a wonderful addition to the garden.
Well, let me summarize my position then. Never, ever underestimate the tenacity of healthy bamboo. Even the most robust physical barriers require not just expert installation, but maybe more importantly, diligent annual maintenance forever. The consequence of containment failure is extreme, potentially backbreaking labor, significant expense, and serious social conflict with neighbors. The sheer difficulty and sometimes the ecological hazard involved in abatement strongly suggest that the inherent risk of planting aggressive running bamboo outweighs the ornamental reward for many, probably most, residential settings that lack the necessary space or, frankly, the long-term commitment.
And I reaffirm that the successful cultivation of bamboo really hinges on informed choice. Clumping varieties offer a safe, genuinely low-risk path for almost any gardener. But running varieties, they offer unparalleled vigor, screen density, and often crucial cold tolerance. These benefits are entirely achievable responsibly through effective, proven root shields and dedicated monitoring trenches. The key is simply understanding that this is not a passive plant. It demands respect, but that respect, when given, is returned with a magnificent garden feature.
I think we both wholeheartedly agree, though, that a deep understanding of rhizome physiology, really knowing the difference between your lateral explorers, the leptomorphs, and your tightly packed bunches, the pacomorphs, is absolutely essential before anyone even thinks about breaking ground.
Indeed. The commitment required must match the plant's will to thrive. Ultimately, the listener must weigh the undeniable benefits of this vigorous grass against the required dedication to its lifelong control.